In this video, I'm going to look at how to make finger jointed boxes using Inkscape 2D design. And to make my life easy, I'm going to go to the MakerCase website. Here we are, makercase.com. And I'm going to use this tool here basically to give me an SVG or a vector graphic file which has got the basic finger joint arrangement, and I'll look at how I can then clean that up and laser cut it using 2D design. So first of all, in MakerCase, well, I'm going to work with millimeters, and I'm going to make a box which is going to be 100 millimeters by 80 millimeters by 60 millimeters, for example. This is going to be the outside dimensions, and I'm going to potentially laser cut this with some 3mm thick acrylic or card or MDF. And I want to have finger joints, so that's the kind of standard operation I'd follow there in MakerCase. I'm going to go ahead. Of course, I can also change the size of the actual tabs here as well. At the moment, they're 6. Let's just see what happens if I change those. You can see it just changes the width there of the finger joint. So I'll put it back to 6 for this demonstration. Let's generate those laser cutter plans, and I'm simply going to download those. Okay, so that's going to save it as an SVG file, and if I show that in the folder, that's actually on my extended desktop here, so I'm just going to double click on this, and that's going to open it in Inkscape. So you do need to have Inkscape open. Here we are, or installed at least, should I say, in order for this to be able to work. So Inkscape basically is a free version of Illustrator. Right, Control wheel mouse to zoom in there. So all I'm going to do with Inkscape is simply copy this image and paste it into 2D design. So let's just click and drag over this. I can do Control C, or of course go edit and copy. Okay, let's minimize this, and now let's bring up 2D design. So as usual, I'm going to right click on grid lock. I'm going to set my grid spacing here to 5 millimeters, lines, and pale blue lines for the grid. So that's how I like it to be constructed here. And I'm just going to go and paste this in, Control V or edit and paste. So there's my finger joint box brought into Inkscape 2D design. So I want to be able to laser cut this from 2D design, but before I do that, I want to just double check a few details here. Let's come to the dimension line tool. Let's come to the attach tool. And what I want to do is check the length of this front panel. Now the size of this was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 100 millimeters in length. So let's just click and put in a dimension line here. And here's the issue. You can see it's 0.45 over. Well, okay, 0.45. I want to get this basically 100. That's my objective here. Let's just check out this dimension here. This should have been, if I'm not mistaken, 80, and it's 80.38. And finally, let's check out this width of this panel. It should be 60, it's 60.26. So there's a little bit of variation. It's slightly over in terms of its physical dimensions. And I'm going to fix this right now. So I'm going to get the selection tool. In fact, actually, let's zoom in first. Let's zoom in on these lines. And you can see here that these lines, my dimension lines, are just vectors. These lines that I've copied in from Inkscape of my finger joint box, they actually have thickness. And as a result, it's actually pulling my dimension line here off the grid. So let's just select the finger joint box. Let's make sure I've got the whole thing there. Yes, I have. Let's zoom back in there. Let's make these align thicknesses, not 0.26 millimeters, but just fine. Okay, so that's how it should be. But now I can really see that actually this box is off the grid, and I want to get it back on the grid. So let's have a see what we can do about this. Back out to media. What I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to pick the whole thing up. I'll put grid look on for what it's worth, just because that's what I always try to do. It's good practice. Pull it to the side, and I'm going to draw a box down here. Now this box, let's get one more set of dimensions in here. This box is going to be the size of the whole of this this drawing. So I need to go to a horizontal dimension line, so it's going to be from there to there. So this, of course, should be 260. So that's 100, 200 plus this width here was 60, so 260. And let's just get a height here. So this height from this bottom point to this top point should be, I believe, 160. No, oh, 140, because it's 80 for this side panel and 60 for this panel, 140. So knowing that, let's come to my rectangle tool. Let's turn off the attach tool, turn on grid lock again. I'm going to make a rectangle 260 by 140. Oh, and I've done that wrong as well. Ay, because look, I'm not measuring from here to here, I'm measuring right the way from down here. Come on. So grid lock off, attach tool on. I want to go from this bottom location to this top location, and this should be let me get this right here, 160, because it's 80 here and it's 80 here. Okay, we've got it. So I want to make a box 260 by 160. So here we go. Rectangle tool, attach tool off, grid lock on, coming into my main drawing area, and I'm going to look down here at my relative grid references. I'm going to make it 260, it's there, by 160, it's there. So let's just confirm this as well. This is 260 by 160. Okay, we are looking good. So now let's pick up this original copied file from Inkscape. Let's just bring this roughly down into position, somewhere like that. Okay, I'm now going to turn the attach tool on, so grid lock off, attach tool on. I'm going to grab this corner right here, and I'm going to drop it so that it's going to snap with the attach tool into the bottom left corner of the rectangle. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to grab this point and I'm going to drop it so it's going to snap into the top right corner of that rectangle. And now I should have fitted the finger joint box inside this predefined 260 by 160 millimeter rectangle. So now let's get rid of that rectangle. So I'm going to select the rectangle and delete it. Let's get the dimension line tool again and let's get some dimensions. So first of all, let's confirm the overall length of this is exactly 260. It is. Before it was 261.19. It's now exactly 260. Let's now check the overall height of this. Okay, it was 160.73 and I now want it to be exactly 160, and it is. Well, let's have a look at some individual dimensions here. So this should be 80, and it's 0.1. That's 1/100th of a millimeter over. Let's just double check this here. I guess this is going to be 79.99. Voila. Let's just get some horizontal dimension lines. So this here should be 100, and it is, and this one here should be 60. Okay, it's 1/100th of a millimeter off again. Let's just have one final check over here. What am I looking for here? Let's just do this dimension here. Okay, so as you can see there, it's been quite a big improvement. If I just look at some of these other calculations, you know, this dimension here was 0.26 of a millimeter, so yeah, 1/4 of a millimeter too big. Well, it's still something, yeah? Whereas this is literally 1/100th of a millimeter too small in this case. So that's really kind of cleaned the whole image up. Now, of course, what I've not considered here is the thickness of the beam when we actually laser cut. So, you know, potentially I'm actually making it worse by doing this, you know, actually by having a slight over tolerance there of dimensions and then considering beam thickness when it cuts things out. Was my original size better? Maybe that's for me to explore in another video, but if you want to get it absolutely perfect, that's one way of doing it.